Okay, I will warn you now, this video is going to be about how to stand out from AI slop and internet pollution if you are a hand maker or an artist. So if you are an AI artist or an AI bro, you might want to exit left. I mean, I'm not completely against AI as a whole. It can be used for very good reasons. It just seems that everybody wants to use it to replace creativity and creative people's work and jobs without any compensation or consent. But we're not going to make this video about that. Hi, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Kim. This is the Coffee and Craft podcast. So I rock up with a cup of coffee. It's tea today, and the idea is that I craft and I keep you company, but I'm not so much crafting as tidying up my crafting supplies. But I will be chatting to you about handmade stuff, and the topic of today's handmade stuff is how to stand out from AI slop. Here's the issue. We are in the middle of an economic storm, just in case you hadn't noticed. Also, things on the internet pretty saturated. That's always been the case, but it feels like it just gets worse every single year. And the problem is that we now have AI slop to deal with. You know what I mean when I say AI slop. Not just posts that are AI generated, but also now things that are being sold. Untested embroidery patterns, crochet patterns, knitting patterns, and you don't see a finished item. There's no tutorial videos to go with it. You just see an AI generated version of what the person assumes you might be able to make. Actually, I don't think they assume that you'll be able to make it at all. I don't think they care. I think they just want the money. And this degrades buyer trust. And I think we're seeing this on sites like Etsy specifically. One, it's harder to find anything decent on the platform now because you have to wade through so much AI rubbish before you can find anything good. And then in the case of all of these patterns, you've got to look extra hard to make sure that you are getting a pattern that's a genuine pattern and not waste your money on something that's either you're not going to be able to make or it's going to look rubbish when you've finished it. Last night I was writing the notes for this video and I had a look at Etsy because I wanted to check something, and I found something a little bit interesting. But yes, I was looking for crochet patterns specifically, and then I did the same with knitting patterns and then embroidery patterns, which is my own flavour of nonsense. And they all had this in common. The listings that I could see were AI. They were all ads and they were all on sale. I'm guessing because they're rubbish and that's the only way that they get sold. The ones that you could tell were genuine, less likely to be on sale. There were a few, but the prices were higher because they don't have to lower their prices in order to sell their stuff. And they tended to have the bestseller and Etsy Picks badges next to them. Not one of the AI slop listings did. And of the ones that were real, a lot of them had either hands as the thumbnail, as part of the thumbnail, or they had something modelling the thing if it was something that you could wear like a shawl or a hat or da-da-da-da-da-da. Again, none of the AI listings did. Now why am I telling you this? Because this, in a nutshell, is what this entire video is about. It's about how we can stand out from AI slop, and in a nutshell, that is by adding the human element. Ironically, it is the hands in Handmade that might save us. Not least because AI really struggle with hands. I'm not surprised though. Have you ever tried to draw a hand? They're hard. So in case you are a handmade seller or an artist that has been struggling to get found or sell your stuff online, and you're thinking that AI is just the latest thing that you've got to contend with, these are just a couple of, well, I guess actionable tips. They're suggestions. As I sometimes say, take what serves you, leave the rest. These are just ideas for how we can implement this in and just use it to our advantage. I kind of mentioned the first one, model it, or have a person in there, or at the very least your hands, because that shows visually an element of humanity. The next thing I've put here are customer photos in reviews or on social media. This can be tricky because obviously it's out of your control, but there are things that we can do to try and encourage people to leave photographs with their reviews. Just an ask. Sometimes people would be more than happy to if they're asked, but they just don't think of it. Another one, and this is something I also saw on some of the listings, is tutorial videos to go alongside the listing. Now, obviously, depending on what you make, this won't be applicable to everybody. I don't need to make a tutorial video on how to use a project bag or how to use a crossbody bag. I would hope that you wouldn't need one of those. However, I do sell mending kits, and in those kits there's things like fabric and denim scraps and a little embroidery hoop and embroidery floss that I nearly dropped in my tea. You know, things that you need when you want to fix your clothes. But what I haven't got yet is a video that goes along with it. And this is a way that I can inject a little bit of humanity into that listing and show anybody who is new to my business that there is in fact a person behind the business, behind those products, and hopefully help to build some of that trust, which I think is really important in this day and age on the internet. I would also, this is not something that you've had to do on places like Etsy for a long time, but I personally am thinking about leaning into words like handmade again in my listings, in my descriptions, titles, etc. Because you never used to have to do it because it was implied. If you were selling in the handmade category, it was implied that everything within the handmade category was handmade. I know, shocking. Obviously, Etsy muddied the waters completely years ago when they kind of redefined what handmade meant. Very helpful. And it's kind of made people argue over what belongs on the platform and what doesn't ever since. But I do think that now, if you are selling something that is handmade, we should lean into that and perhaps use that as part of our keywords as well. Now, obviously, there's nothing stopping somebody who mass produces something from also putting handmade into their titles and stuff. But I'm not seeing that at the moment. And a lot of the people who don't make handmade will love to tell you how much people don't care about handmade. So there's no need for them to put handmade in their titles and descriptions, is there? This one I have spoken about before, and I do get quite passionate about it. I do think we need to lean into the messy, into the imperfect, and into our mistakes. Here's the reason why, especially when we're talking about standing out from AI slop. AI is too perfect. It always seems that pictures always seem to have this slightly animated quality about them, even the photographs. And it's got a bit of an uncanny valley vibe to it. It just has this look of being unreal and a bit too polished. And this is how I think we can really stand out in any kind of visual way possible, with photography, videos, anything. We need to lean into our mess, which is great news, because I've got mess. And our imperfections and our mistakes, and I have those aplenty as well. I saw a picture on Instagram the other day. It was of a person holding up like a miniature painting. And this person, it looked like a man's hand, it might not have been, but they had what looked to be the sleeve of some blue overalls, and they were just covered in paint. Couldn't see anything of his studio because he'd blurred the background an awful lot so that the focus was on the picture, but he was just holding it. And I don't know if this was intentional, but to me I was just like, it was the sleeve that stuck with me, because it really was covered in paint, and it was just a visual of, I made this bloody thing. I painted it. A few years ago, that would have been a complete no-no, especially on something like Etsy. This wasn't on Etsy, as I say, this was on social media. But the advice is always sort of like clean backgrounds, make it look pretty, make it look professional. And I really think the opposite is true. I don't think we should be aiming for it to look messy, but I think we need to care less about perfection, because I do think that where we're going to find our advantage is in the mess, in the authenticity. Basically, I wrote here, lean into the slow and inconvenient, which sounds like an insult, doesn't it? But I do think that we need to lean into that. For example, hand embroidery. So slow when you want to make a lot of things, very inconvenient. So it was a brilliant choice to base my business on, but I love it. And that is what I can lean into. And it's not just AI slop that this helps us stand out from. It also reduces the chance of copycats when your thing is harder to replicate. I've seen people try to replicate hand embroidery with varying degrees of success. So although hand embroidery is slow, you can still technically make a hand embroidery AI picture, but you can't replicate the process. Bots can't knit, bots can't embroider, bots can't crochet. So I've talked about sharing your process in the past, and I usually get people going, I don't want to share my process, I don't want to show how other people how to do what I do. I'm not talking about your whole process from A to Z. You can show a snippet. That's not enough to give away your secret sauce, but it is enough to show someone that it is you making the item. Again, hands. We need to see hands making so that we can be rest assured that it is handmade. I'm going to interrupt myself very quickly to do a shameless plug of my YouTube membership, but don't worry, I'll keep it brief because I find these things really painful. I have a YouTube membership, and for $1.99 a month you get an extra video a month, you get some members only shorts, some posts, and I will be leaning into that hard and fast later on this year, especially as I will be closing my Patreon in the next few months or so, I'm not sure when. So if you've been thinking about joining, I would love to see you over there. And I will stop now and we'll get back to the video, but thanks for listening. The next thing I put, build a following off social media equals in-person markets equals email list. Is this all? I was trying to think of ways that we could just add like an extra branch to our business that was a bit more solid and secure than social media, which seems to be all like this. I'm going to include YouTube in this as well, because these are other platforms. We have no guarantee over what they're going to be doing over the next, well, few weeks, let alone few years. So I was trying to think of things that were more solid, more within our control. And as I say, I could only come up with in-person selling, like markets, shows, that kind of thing, or building an email list, which is really difficult in this day and age. And the whole market thing is extremely difficult if you are a hard-assed introvert like myself. And I've tried doing markets before and I decided very early on that it was not for me. So it really hurts that right now it's probably one of the best ways to get your name out there, sell your wares. So if you are not put off by peopling, then if like me though, you are a bit of an introvert, a bit of a I'd rather not, thank you very much. It's a pain, but it might be something that we have to dip our toe into in the not too distant future anyway. Oof. Let's move on. I think basically the one takeaway that I would like you to have from this video is that we need to make sure that we are leaning into what makes us human in our business and how we can go about showing that to our customers, like the personal touch. If you are on social media, I'm thinking of Instagram specifically, one really easy way of doing this is just to pin a post that's like an introduction post. I don't know why that was so difficult to say. And I have one on mine. I'll post a picture here. It's just my face. And not only is it a chance for you to tell people a little bit about yourself and your business, but it's just instantly, that's the person behind this. It's not AI. There is a human there. I see them. So that's it, really. Anything about our business that is inconvenient, slow, messy, human, hard for a bot to replicate, these are the things that we need to lean into in order to stand out from all of the AI slop. Like I said, I hope I said, because I meant to say, bots can't knit, bots can't embroider, bots can't do things with their hands. So we should be leaning into that and shouting about it, and in any way, shape or form, even if that is keywords in our titles and descriptions, putting it in photographs. It's been a while since I said that. Put it in your photographs, handmade. Just, if you use your hands to make something, shout about it, because I just feel like this is going to become an ever increasing problem. Providing the internet doesn't turn into a place where it's just people selling and nobody's buying, then there'll be a place for us as artists and makers to still earn a living here. I do sometimes worry that we are just selling to each other though. And I don't think I have said this, but also just create space to allow yourself to inject a little bit of your personality into it, allow yourself to have fun and be a little bit silly and frivolous, because I think we can fall into the trap of taking things a little bit too seriously. Maybe just that alone in itself would help us stand out from AI. A little bit of silliness. And if you follow me on Instagram, you may have noticed that occasionally I have been posting just random pictures with a little bit of text. The latest one being my cat. Well, it wasn't my cat, it was just my bed sheets with very muddy cat paw prints on them. And I just put the text, like, why be a part of the problem when you can be the whole problem? Because that felt very apt that particular morning. And I have got an idea of what I can do with those random posts, but I'll leave that for another day. If you got to the end of this, whatever the heck this video turns into, as I say, this is the second time that I've sat down to film it. I don't know if I've said things twice, 3 times, or just completely missed them out. So it'll be fun to see when I come to edit. But if you've got this far, thank you. Like I think I've said before, you're a glutton for punishment, but I love you dearly for it. And if you are a member of this channel, don't forget there is a video up, go check that out. And if you're not and you would like to, like I say, it would be lovely to see you over there. And if not, no worries at all. Hopefully I haven't put you off, and I'll see you again next week. Ta-ra.